Welcome back to another episode of Primetime. I've got Nick beside me, Dad off the bench. It is the special grand final edition of Primetime. Massive week, AFL and NRL grand final this week. What's on our agenda for the week?
Big grand final previews, both AFL and NRL. Not often that it falls on the same weekend.
I can't remember the last time it did. When was the last time?
I can't remember either. Usually it's always the week before, which I kind of like because there's less travel and you get to designate a week to a grand final.
Yeah.
But other than that, Wallabies, Arsenal, other stuff on the agenda.
The thing is, for us, we're going to be in Melbourne tomorrow previewing the whole AFL grand final. We'll be in Collingwood. We'll be talking to some Brisbane fans as well. And then Sunday morning, we're flying back home to Sydney to watch Penrith get a three-peat, which I think is going to happen. So a stacked week for us, but it's grand final week and we're ready for it. It's going to be massive.
Very lucky to be attending both grand finals.
Yeah.
And we'll see which one's better.
I'm going to put my money on it, just quietly. Probably going to be AFL.
That takes us to the
that
fan
takes us to our
question.
fan question. Dad, what's the fan question of the week?
Who will have the better grand final, the AFL or the NRL?
AFL or NRL grand final? Who will have the better grand final? Look, we're going to have an objective view on which is the better one. I think, do you take it as the whole grand final week or the grand final experience on the day?
I'm taking this question as it's a whole week grand final and mostly just the day. Who will have the better game? Who will have the better crowd? Who will have the better halftime performance? And who's going to have a better TV audience? The answer to those questions is probably 3 out of 4 AFL.
Yeah, but I think it just depends on the game as well. If it's a GWS getting bashed like it was a couple of years ago by 100 points, it's a shit game, it's a shit grand final. Whichever's going to be the tighter game, and obviously Melbourne fans turn up and they go nuts. So I'm leaning more towards the AFL. That's going to be the better grand final.
The reason I'm leaning towards the AFL is they'll have a more lively crowd. Collingwood fans are going to go more manic than Penrith fans will. And Brisbane, I don't think they travel too well, usually to Melbourne or to Sydney. So I don't know if they're going to be showing up in droves to this game. The halftime show as well, I mean, that's a contentious one. I'm a big fan of Tina Turner, so her remembrance show at the NRL will probably beat...
Tina Turner, the musical.
That'll probably beat Kiss halftime show on their last Australian tour.
Yeah, you're getting up there, Kiss.
So I don't know. And then TV audience, who do you think is going to have the better TV audience?
It's usually the AFL gets a
grand final.
Yeah, because it's more of a national game. It's played in Perth,
Adelaide.
Adelaide, and whatnot. But I still think, just based on crowd reaction and how close the game will be, I think AFL.
So really, that just depends. If Brisbane Broncos somehow keep it tight against the Panthers, that'll probably drive a better game. Probably say that they had a better weekend.
Credit to the state of Queensland though. 2 Brisbane teams in grand finals across the weekend.
For me, it's good to see 1 and 2 in both codes making the grand final because obviously you've been predicting for a long time that it's going to be a Penrith-Brisbane grand final in the NRL, and that's what's happened. Like
I think
no surprise there.
The 2 best teams in the comp. That's why a lot of people have come out and said, like we had that top 5 the other week, top 5 greatest NRL teams, and everyone in the comments, where's Penrith 2022? Where's Penrith 2020? It's like they haven't versed any great teams. Or, the great teams that we named, the Melbourne teams, the opposition they're going up against, who have Penrith had to go up against? Canberra.
A depleted South Sydney side in the final.
This Brisbane team and the bottom half of the ladder is just non-existent.
Yeah.
A lot of the top 8 teams can just walk over this bottom half of the ladder. So they haven't had, I don't think they've had the adversity. What they've done in going back-to-back is admirable. And to potentially go 3-peat is legacy-defining stuff. But they haven't gone up against great competition to be in the top 5 greatest team yet. They might be the best modern team when it's all said and done in a couple of years, but I guess we'll never know.
I think you can say if they 3-peat, they'll be up there, maybe top 5. But they haven't 3-peated yet, so you can't say it.
In your opinion, guys, obviously watching all the semi-finals, I mean, the AFL's had much better games, closer games, more exciting games.
They've had a 10 times better final series.
Yeah.
And it is a blemish on NRL's resume.
Yeah, but how are you supposed to predict who's going to have the better final series? It's all based on the games. Because the Roosters game going to field goals is still entertaining. Mind you, there were some shit calls in a lot of the finals games in the NRL.
It was a poor quality game though. So yes, it was a tight finish, but the actual game itself was poor quality.
But I'm saying Collingwood and GWS being closer than a lot of people were thinking, it makes it for a better final series. So what, do you want Brisbane and Warriors to be a closer game?
Yes, you do. It shows more parity amongst the league for that. And then also, it keeps your audiences engaged more. Like, I don't think many people from Melbourne actually watched that Storm semi-final on Friday night. I know most actual NRL fans probably turned it off a quarter of the way through the second half. Yeah. So I'm not asking for much, just a bit more parity.
Okay, well, let's look at the news that's coming out this week. Phil Gould is making headlines. Not for his recruitment to the Bulldogs, But apparently he's been called upon by Brad Fittler to come into the New South Wales team. This is coming after Greg Alexander's been sacked. Okay, he's put his hand up and resigned, apparently. Danny Badiris isn't going to be there next year. Phil Gould's addressed it and said, look, Brad Fittler's called upon me, and out of loyalty, I'm saying yes. I don't know what the role is, but I'm going to be involved with the New South Wales team. He hasn't given me a position. I don't know what it is. Is this the right move for New South Wales, and is it the right move for Phil Gould?
Phil Gould, please stay away. Don't come anywhere near New South Wales. We've already struggled enough. Brandy and Fittler had no idea. We don't need to bring in someone who struggled with their 30-year plan at the Bulldogs. I understand that you're a legend of the game. You've coached New South Wales previously to some serious victories.
Yep.
But I don't see what you can do in your old age to help New South Wales at the moment.
Okay, that might be a bit harsh. I'm saying, what is Phil Gould going to offer the New South Wales team? What is he going to give him a pep talk at halftime that no one...
Maybe you can talk about his weight loss and how inspiring that was, losing all that weight. Honestly, mate, how many roles can you have? How many different forms of income can you have?
If you're the Bulldogs, though, do you want this? Do you want him to...
No, I think it's insulting that you're not focusing on the team that you're employed to, and especially when the team's struggling and you've been called out for not performing.
There's a reason why NRL head coaches don't get involved in New South Wales and Queensland coaching jobs, because they want to be focused on their team. That's what they're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. He's the general manager of a team. But I just don't understand, what's his role going to be? He's going to maybe have an input on selection, or what's he going to have a 5-year plan for New South Wales and maybe build a centre of excellence at fucking Olympic Park or something? What's he going to offer to the team?
That's exactly correct. And especially the Bulldogs are struggling. Focus on your own backyard. Get them to a top 8 spot before you think of coaching or advising any other team.
New South Wales, literally, the blueprint is there. Just copy what Queensland have done. They have one coach. They have input from the greats, yes, but it's like... Go find a Billy Slater. That's it. That understands the modern game. That's been under a coach like Craig Bellamy. Why do you need 10 different people like Brad Fittler, Danny Badiris,
McGregor?
Why do you need? There's too many chefs in the kitchen.
I'm just saying, I don't like copying the other team. Maybe find your own way, but this definitely is not the way.
They need a Billy Slater. That's an overarching coach who makes the final decisions. And Brad Fittler hasn't been good at that. He's 3-3.
Can I say something?
In superior
Can I say
teams.
something, gents? If you employ a coach, you get a coach. Okay, they're employing Brad Fittler obviously because he played for New South Wales. He's done well as a player, but he's not a coach.
Yeah.
There's no NRL team that would actually sign him as a coach. So why do you have him as a coach?
He tried coaching.
Have an ex-NRL coach coaching New South Wales. That's an ex-player.
Well, Billy Slater's not a coach either. You could say.
No, but he's been coached by one of the best.
And he's probably. But
he's proven himself as a coach.
He's proven himself. He could step into an
NRL
role.
club.
100%.
Is there any former players that you would select as a coach?
Look, when they lost the series, everyone said, who are you going to get? Des Hasler's name was thrown up. He's coaching an NRL team. Michael Ennis' name was thrown up. He's now at Manly Seagulls. I would have put a former player in like Mick Ennis. Give him a go like they gave Billy Slater a go. Everyone's done with Fittler. And the fact is, now that Brandy stood down, they're going to give him another go. If he loses the series, it's done. I don't think Phil Gould's going to solve your problems, to be honest.
As much as it was supposed to be make or break this year, it's make or break next year.
Okay, next in the news headlines was Jerome Luai. He's got a lot on his plate. He came back last week from that shoulder injury. He said, tell the doctors I'm built different. He is built different. He played the whole 80 minutes. Played a fantastic game.
He didn't play the whole 80. He came off.
Okay, he did go, but they're saving him for the grand final. There's now talks in the lead up to the grand final. He can't negotiate with any other clubs until November 1st. So he's going to have to make a decision. Do you stay at Penrith, possibly on less money, and continue this dynasty, say they three-peat? Or do you look at other clubs, because he's coming off contract, do you look at other clubs and say you could earn up to $500,000 more elsewhere?
I know this might be wrong to say because I'm not a player, or I've never played the NRL, but if I had won a premiership, I'd be taking the money at any club that offers me. I feel like you got a very short career. Any club that offers you overs, you take that money immediately because you got to think about your life post-football, which I don't think many players do sometimes. So even though Penrith might be the best place to win and maybe the best place for your legacy, that ultimately might not be the best decision for your life.
I'm comparing it to Brandon Smith. He left Melbourne, he won a comp.
Yeah.
He's gone for big money. Obviously hasn't worked out at the Roosters.
Not yet.
In the first year.
Still, Roosters are somewhat of a successful club, so it's not even that bad. But say the Bulldogs, who's quietly been linked to, he's already got Stephen Crichton going there. Bulldogs offer you $1 million a season. They lost to Vita Pangai Jr. They've got some money to play around with. The Bulldogs offer you $1 million a season. Would you give up being at the successful Penrith Panthers, possibly going for another premiership to try and salvage the club that is the Bulldogs? I don't know what I would do. personally, if I've won 3 comps already, I'm taking the money. I'm doing what Stephen Crichton did. I'm happy with my career. Now I just want to set up my family and my own personal wealth for the rest of my life.
I mean, it depends on what the discrepancy is between Penrith's offer and another club's offer. If it's like 50,000, look,
of course,
in the grand scheme of things,
but I'm talking, what it is, $200,000 more, $300,000 more, I'm leaving the club.
Over a period of 4 or 5 years, it adds up.
200,000 a season, yeah.
Yeah, it adds up. Like I said, look, do you think he'll go early? Like he'll go with?
No, it's.
No, he's signed up. He's signed for Penrith for 2024.
If he announces that he's signing with another club the following year, I'd get rid of him. And if I'm Penrith, I'd blood another half like Cogger.
You wouldn't get rid of him because he's still a quality player.
Well, Cogger's gone, but he's gone to Newcastle. So
I wouldn't get rid of him. If you have a quality player...
Look what happened with Dom Young this season.
Yeah, you keep him
because he's a try-scoring machine and they're best with him in the team. So now, if I'm Penrith,
they did sack Dom Young for a period there.
Yeah, which was stupid.
Which was dumb.
Which was
backfired.
Backfired, yeah.
But I don't know, if I'm Jerome Luai...
Take the money.
Take the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah, okay. End of season review. We've been doing this each week of the finals as the teams get knocked out. The teams that got knocked out last week in the preliminary final was the Melbourne Storm. What's your report card on the Melbourne Storm?
The report card for the Melbourne Storm is a B. Now, this might be generous because they got pumped in that prelim final and they're not the Melbourne Storm of old. But considering the roster that they have, they've got no forward pack. Mm-hmm. Ryan Pappenhausen was out for the season. Jerome Hughes and Cam Munster missed a handful of games throughout the season. So really, looking at them, they should never have made the top 4 because their roster's not there. And they overachieved. And when you overachieve, you get a B. It's not going to be an A because they didn't really win or impress too much. And I can't really see them going forward unless they make big signings in their forward pack, them being a quality team.
Harry Grant, Jerome Hughes, Cam Munster.
Still a good spine.
It's still a good spine, but it's not Billy Slater. It's not Cooper Cronk. It's not Cam Smith.
And that's what the expectations are.
Yeah. It's not. You can't compare them.
With the loss of Brandon Smith, who's a quality player and was playing really well under Bellamy, I don't feel like... I don't mind the rating of a B because they did make a prelim final with their team. They still have a solid team. Christian Welch in there, Cameron Kamitha, Nelson Asafa-Solomona. On paper, they're a premiership winning side. Ooh. I feel like they're just missing that one spark, which usually is Ryan Pappenhausen, who was away the whole season due to injury. But they're missing one more game breaker that they usually have, where it's like a solid centre like Will Chambers. Olam has really dwindled in terms of form. That's what's cost them this season, and I don't feel like they're going to improve upon that B because what are they doing with their recruitment? They haven't really. They still have Remus Smith in there. Are they going to find someone that's going to replace Olam? Xavier Coates going to him was a good addition.
He's been injured as well.
He's been injured up and down. So a healthy Melbourne Storm playing at full capacity under Craig Bellamy, they deserve a B. I don't know where they go next year.
Yeah, I just think could be time for Bellamy to blood in a new coach. Maybe they just need some.
No, I think he said he's going for 2 more years and that'll be it.
Maybe he's been saying that for the last 10 years.
No, I think he's re-signed earlier this season on 1 more contract, and that'll do him. And then who knows, maybe we'll go to New South Wales. But the other team that got knocked out in the prelim, the Warriors.
Yeah.
What's the Warriors report
The
card?
Warriors has to be an A. Okay, not that they overachieved, they just performed beyond expectations of what it was at the start of the season. No one knew Sean Johnson was going to be a Dalian Player of the Year. You know, with the loss of Reece Walsh as well, out the back, that no spark. People thought they weren't going to have that spark that Reece Walsh has for Brisbane. I think it has to be an A for them to go to a prelim final, get the whole nation surrounding them. They were everyone's second favourite team. So I think it's an A for sure.
The Waz fans took over, and that's a credit to the performance of the team on the field. The Waz fans or the internet aren't going to be bandwagoning on a team that's not going to be doing well. They made a prelim final. They made the top 4. They played a good quality brand of football. Mm-hmm. And Andrew Webster... He actually made them a better defensive team, a better attacking team. And with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck coming next year, things are on the up for the New Zealand.
Yeah, I mean, the only place to go is to an A+, which could be a grand final. With Tuivasa-Sheck coming in, where does he play? Because you've got Chance at fullback.
They said Chance is playing fullback. That came out and said that earlier.
So what, you're going to put Roger on the wing or 5'8"?
I think even centre. They might even play him in the centre.
Centre would be decent. Yeah, wow.
I
think wing would be wasted. He needs touches on the ball.
My wingers take a lot of hit-ups.
Yeah, coming out of your half.
And he did play winger earlier in his career.
They're looking good for next year. Might be Smokies. What about who's in the wrong? Each week we've been going through each finals game, who's been in the wrong. This week's who's in the wrong, okay? Who's in the wrong? The touch judge for not calling the forward pass, or the NRL for the bunker not being able to call blatant forward passes?
Well, the touch judge is definitely in the wrong. There's no way you can miss a 5-metre forward pass and not call it. People in the crowd could see this. Your job is to be in line with the play and call a forward pass. I can understand, give the benefit of the doubt if it was a line ball, if it was backwards out of their hands, but that was forward out of their hands. It went 5 metres forward and it changed the game. The bunker, it's been an issue every single forward pass ever.
The rule is the bunker can't rule on forward passes, and I understand that. Peter V'landys has come out and said, look, if it's blatant, the bunker should be able to say, this is a forward pass. It should just come down to discretion. Matty Johns has come out and said, leave it to the on-field ruling. It's going to become too complicated. But seriously, if the ball has travelled 5 metres forward, you could see where Reece Walsh passed the ball, and you can see where the guy catches the ball on camera. Just call it a forward pass.
I'm not asking for a chip in the ball. I'm not asking for some absurd technology. I'm just asking that if you can see on TV or on the replay that the ball travelled forward, just call it. It's as worse as a knock-on. It's as obvious as a knock-on as well, so just call it.
But the fact is, the touch judges' sole job, they don't have many roles.
They're blind.
Call offsides if someone's in front of the kicker, and if a pass goes forward, call it forward.
And don't forget, they've got to put their flags up.
And the flag up when they kick the goals. It's not a hard job, touch judges.
But I'm going to step in there for 1 sec. So, like, when they do score a try, and then they realise that the touch judges miscalling the guy out, because sometimes they can't see. And they go back and they look, and the guy's obviously stepped out, and they rule no try. Why couldn't they go back? Like, it was so blatant, that forward pass, irrespective of whether the bunker doesn't have the overrule power.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I mean, everybody saw that.
Imagine
it was a blight.
referee.
On the game. It was
You're
a
the
blight on the
referee
game.
who's awarded the try, and you're watching the replay up on the screen and go, I'm not going to get the grand final. That's a pretty bad call. But no, the touch judge's blatantly in the wrong. They should be up to speed wherever the game of play is.
That's what you get paid for.
That's what you get paid for. It's your sole job on the field, and you can't. And it was a blatant forward pass, and it's cost Ashley Klein not being able to ref the grand final. And who is it? I think it's.
I can't even know. Don't even know.
I think Adam G is going to be able to ref the grand final because that was so blatant, that forward pass. That referee won't be.
I guarantee that touch is not in the grand final.
Yeah. So okay, who's in the wrong with this one? The NRL prelim being played at a core and only having 35,000 fans, or the Penrith Panthers supporters not showing up and supporting their team?
Well, the NRL plays the prelim at a major stadium like a core every single season, so it has to be the Panthers fans in the wrong.
So let me rephrase it. The NRL playing the prelim final at a core and not Penrith Panthers Stadium, or the Penrith Panthers fan not travelling to a core stadium?
It has to be the fans. Your club has made 4 straight grand finals now, and each year you're not packing out a core stadium. Any other fan base that has a team like that has a major prelim final to get into the grand final, you have to show up. You can't not show up to a major game where you're supposed to be like the biggest fan base in the NRL.
Can I say something? Like, did you see how many Carlton fans went to Brisbane?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you see how many fans went to Brisbane? I'm telling you, there was no Melbourne fans that went to a call.
What's a 30-minute drive down the M4 for Penrith fans?
But I don't think they've got that many.
It's not even that. What's embarrassing?
I don't think they've got that many fans.
Is if people are making a case that rugby league is a national sport, if you can't pack out a 80,000 stadium for a prelim final for your team that's made the grand final for the past 4 years, then it's embarrassing as a coach. But I would also say that that's the difference between NRL and AFL is.
Their fans show up.
Their fans show up and are more passionate. For you to not be able to travel and support your team who's in a prelim final, wherever they are, even if it's interstate, then I think the Panthers fans are in the wrong. I don't care where it's played. You guys have been one of the most successful teams over the past 4 or 5 years, and you're not showing colours. There were reports online that they were selling tickets, buy one get one free, and you couldn't show up for your team. The AFL aren't putting tickets on sale. They're gone like that.
35,000 for a prelim is embarrassing. There's no other way of saying it, and that's the fans' fault. I'm not even blaming the game because what more do you want them to do? They gave away free tickets.
That's less than 50%. The ground holds 80,000, so that's an F.
That's an F. It's a fail. It's a failure for Penrith fans showing up to the game. But that's not even that. Melbourne fans as well. Obviously, there's an issue with Melbourne fans not being able to travel. They don't usually pack out Amy Park either. So the NRL, I'm talking. This is finals footy. Maybe they're fatigued throughout the whole season because there's so many rounds. I don't know what it is. But they're not showing up for finals game. They only really pack out the grand final. Let's be honest. The state of origin and grand finals are the only time you're going to get a packed 80,000 at a core stadium.
Well, that's what they hopefully we get that this weekend.
I think it should be sold out. But let's go through the player head-to-head. Each week we've been putting two players up against each other, and you can catch it on our TikTok. This week, for a grand final preview, we're going 1 through 17. The teams on paper, head-to-head, starting with the fullbacks, Reece Walsh versus Dylan Edwards.
Dylan Edwards is a terrific player, great fullback, reigning Clive Churchill medalist, but you got to give the nod to Reece Walsh. He's the Dally M that's not going to win it. He's the most electrifying player in the NRL, and he's more important to his team performance. Brisbane can't win this game unless Reece Walsh plays well.
Can I just say, how do you feel about Reece Walsh being out of contention for Dally M fullback of the year? He's out and out being the best fullback in the comp, and they have to throw in names like James Tedesco and a few other people that you know who have not been the best fullback in the comp.
Stupid.
I think if you get suspended and you still win, it's like Nick Dacos in the AFL. He was out with injury, but he was still in contention and could have possibly won the Brownlow medal.
It's stupid. It's definitely stupid, but it's just that's the ruling. That's the rule. Don't get suspended.
I agree. Like, I mean, whether you're suspended or whether you miss games through injury, it's
if
the
you're
same.
still the best player.
If you're the best player in that position or the best player in the comp.
Let's go to wingers. Brian To'o or Selwyn Cobbo?
I feel like in a big game, which the grand final is, you go with a more experienced seasoned winger, and that's Brian To'o. He's been there, he's done it, and Cobbo's inconsistent.
I feel like To'o's been far more consistent throughout the season, through Origin, also just playing for Penrith. You're always picking him as an anytime try scorer, and he does the hard yards coming out of your half. He's consistently been there for Penrith. What about this centre head-to-head? Stephen Crichton or Katoni Staggs?
Katoni Staggs has been disappointing for me. I don't think he's been the player that people had built him up to be last year, and Stephen Crichton has been that player.
Katoni Staggs has had a quieter season.
And Stephen Crichton is probably the best centre on the field in this game, so you got to give the nod to Stephen Crichton.
He's also performed in grand finals throughout the past. He's scored in, I think, every Penrith grand final. So I'm giving the nod to Stephen Crichton here. Tago or Herbie Farnworth in the other centre pairing?
I've said Herbie Farnworth's the most underrated player in the NRL, and Tago's coming into this game with an injury still, so you got to give the nod to Farnworth.
Well, I just want to mention as well, while we're on the centres right now, Herbie Farnworth at training today came off with a hamstring injury. Wasn't able to finish the training session, complained about hamstring tightness. So him being picked is called into question. If he doesn't play, are you just writing off Brisbane?
You're not writing him off.
Is their left side just weak?
It's definitely weaker, and that'd probably be something that their right centre, whoever plays right centre, will take advantage of.
I'm saying, does Penrith come in to even more favourites?
Oh, yeah, no. I think they're $1.60 in the betting at the moment. They'll probably come into about $1.50. They'll definitely move.
I thought the Warriors exposed Brisbane defensively on the weekend.
But some of their tries intercept. There
was a couple of
them, especially on their right side.
Cobbo's got no idea in defence, like seriously.
Rushes out of the
line. That side there really struggles. I think if they target that side, Reynolds is not a great defender. We'll get to that later, but Reynolds is not one of the best defenders in the comp. They're going to struggle defensively against Penrith.
Okay, other wingers, Taruva versus Jesse Arthurs.
Both have been great this season. Taruva, I just think, has had a better season on that side that he's filled in for Penrith, and he's kind of made it his own. Arthurs has been great for Brisbane, but I don't think he's seen as much ball as Taruva has. And who's scored more tries? You have to go with Taruva.
Taruva versus Arthurs. I think Taruva has been the better all-round winger as well, and in a big game as well. I think he's got more X factor to break the game open if need be. So that's 3-2 right now.
This one is pretty contentious. I don't know if Jerome Luai's at 100% if he's full strength, but Ezra Mann versus Jerome Luai.
Jerome Luai, you go back-to-back premiership winner, Origin 5'8". Ezra Mann's good.
Even with one shoulder?
Even with one shoulder, I'm taking Jerome Luai. I think this is where the Penrith Panthers will be the better team on the weekend. They've got the experience, and this is where Jerome Luai's experience will take over.
Matty Johns had Ezra Mann in his 5'8" of the year, in his team of the year.
He also just said that the forward passes should be left to the rest.
Yeah, I know, but
but Ezra Mann's had
a great season. And he's in line for a big pay rise.
Yeah, he's had a great season. But in saying that, guys, Ezra Mann plays on Cleary's side, and
they'll be attacking each other.
Yeah, and Reynolds is on Jerome Luai's side. Like I'm saying, so really, I mean, matching players like number for number.
Yeah, 5'8" to 5'8", but you got to think
it's the role that they play.
They're also Nathan Cleary is the organizer. Adam Reynolds is the organizer. Yeah. Ezra Mann's more of a running 5'8", and so is Jerome Luai. He's more of the runner.
Who are you taking?
I've got to go with Jerome Luai as well, just based on experience. Mongrel, he's been there. He'll probably be a bit more confident. And I don't like the painted nails. So I'm just going to go with the more experienced player.
All right, the halfbacks. Adam Reynolds versus Nathan Cleary.
This one's easy for me. Nathan Cleary. He's been the best 7 all season. Adam Reynolds has had those injuries all year. He's a quality 7, probably New South Wales' second option behind Mitchell Moses when Nathan Cleary's out. But I just got to go Nathan Cleary. Consistency in terms of kicking game, where he is around the field, how he organises the game, the way that they play their arm wrestle Penrith. It's all off the back of him. He's the organiser, and they're the minor premiers. So I'm going to go Cleary over Adam Reynolds in the grand final.
Nathan Cleary is not only the best halfback in the NRL, he's the best player in the NRL, so you have to give the nod to Cleary.
He's a great defender as well, man.
Yeah,
he's a much better defender
I'd say he's
than Adam Reynolds.
100%. He's a better defender than Adam Reynolds is. You know, if you got a second rower lining up against Adam Reynolds and a second rower coming up against Nathan Cleary, you're taking Cleary in that defensive situation.
Adam Reynolds has a history of being a bit of a bag snatcher.
Props, Moses Leota versus Flegler.
I can't really separate these two. I think Flegler, I'm going to edge it just to Flegler. Because of what he's done on the Origin stage, he can step up. He's proven himself that he can play on the big stages. Moses Leota, not that he's the unsung hero at Penrith. He doesn't get a lot of recognition for what he does as the enforcer at Penrith. But I think Flegler has a bigger impact on games.
I feel like this is a position where
they cancel each other out.
But you're just going to
to edge one.
If you have to give it to Flegler just as a nod.
Work rate.
Higher work rate.
For sure.
Probably less errors as well, I'd say. Hookers, Walters versus Kenny. I'm saying this one's a draw. I can't say anyone's better than the other one.
They're both just your run-of-the-mill hookers.
Yeah.
Make their tackles, do the job for the team. I'll call it a draw as well.
If it was at Kairouz, it'd obviously be Kairouz.
Yeah, because he could have more of an impact of a game.
Both these players just do their job.
Here's how I would look at it. If Penrith win, you know, you're putting your money on Nathan Cleary to be Clive Churchill medalist. If Brisbane win, it could be anyone in the spine as well. If Api Kairouz was playing, you could probably put his hand up as a Clive Churchill medalist as well. Both of these hookers aren't game-breaking hookers. They are do your job, make your tackles, and serve your role for the team. So it's a draw.
The other prop, James Fisher-Harris versus Payne Haas.
Oh, man, that's tough. I don't like going against Fishizzle, and that's his tag on Instagram. But Payne Haas is the best forward in the comp. He's going to win Dally M front row of the year. But he could win the Dally M medal. That's how good he is. He's earning his contract just based on work rate and minutes on the field. You have to go Payne Haas. You're stupid not to, but Fisher-Harris is a top player.
Yeah,
and he's going to aim up and aim up against Payne Haas. But I'm going Payne Haas.
Both these players are top 5 front rowers, but he had to give the nod who's the best front rower. It's Payne Haas. So you give the Brisbane Broncos the victory in that head-to-head.
But that's going to give motivation for Fisher-Harris this week. So, yeah, who's the next pairing?
Second rowers, Scott Sorensen versus Kurt Capewell.
I got to go with Kurt Capewell. He's been there. Scott Sorensen's a great player, like I said, but he's a role player in that team. He's not like a Liam Martin who's been at Origin level, who's done it with Penrith at that level. You know, Kurt Capewell's been to grand finals. He's won Origins, and he's a former Panther. So I got to give Capewell that one as well.
I'm just going to give it to Capewell because he's an Origin player. I actually think Sorensen probably will have the better game because he's a more damaging runner of the football, which he plays his role better. But you got to give who would you rather in your team? You'd probably rather Kurt Capewell.
missed out on selection this year, so he didn't play State of Origin.
Yeah, he's previously a State of Origin.
I'm
Yeah,
just
I
saying,
think
his form this year hasn't warranted selection.
Yeah.
But he's not playing as well as previous years.
The other second row matchup, Jordan Ricky versus Liam Martin.
This is tough too.
No, it's an easy one.
It's not. If you look at Jordan Ricky's game, that guy, Adam Reynolds loves hitting him short because he scores tries and he can burrow over a halfback. He's drawing players in for Reece Walsh at the back. I don't mind Jordan Ricky, but Liam Martin, like I said, experience. He's done it before. Liam Martin is someone that can win the Clive Churchill if he plays his best game. He's strong defensively. I'm edging towards Liam Martin, but it's a top matchup.
If I had to pick one player, one second row from my team, I'm taking Liam Martin any day of the week. His work rate's better, probably defensively.
Defensively
I think he's a better runner of the football as well, and he's got the experience of playing in the grand final.
Experience.
I know I keep saying that, but that's
experience
what
is very important. Like, I mean, you're going to see a lot of these Broncos players that's never played in a grand final.
Probably shit themselves on
Yeah,
the big
yeah,
stage. I would
honestly,
be on the toilet.
You know, and
from
you've got Penrith that have been there, done that. You know what I mean? They're going to soak it in.
Okay, and then we go lock. Big matchup, Isaiah Yeo versus Pat Carrigan.
We've done this throughout the year, already, and we both picked Pat Carrigan based off he's the captain of that side, okay? His work rate is higher. Isaiah Yeo, not that, yes, he's Penrith's go-to first receiver, front row, but so is Pat Carrigan. I'd say who has more of an impact on their team, I have to go Pat Carrigan. And who performed better at Origin level, Pat Carrigan.
Either player could win Clive Churchill if they play to their potential, but I think I like Pat Carrigan more as a player. We've said it all year. And if I wanted a player for my team in the grand final, I'd take Pat Carrigan, because I think he's a better all-round forward. But that puts us now, through 13 players, 6 apiece.
It's 6 all.
6 all. Hookers obviously cancel each other out. It can't be 6 all,
there's 13.
Hookers cancel each other out to tie.
Okay.
So that puts us now to the bench, the tiebreaker. We've got Lindsay Smith for the Panthers, Spencer Linu, Luke Garner, Jack Cogger or Tyrone Peachy. And then for the Broncos, Kobe Hetherington, Brendan Piacora, Tyson Smoothie, and Keenan Palacia.
I'm just thinking of role players for Penrith who have played well this season. If you slot Garner in there, Tyrone Peachy's done a job when he needs to for Penrith.
Spencer Linu could easily be starting.
Spencer Linu, exactly, could be in the starting team.
Especially
when
in his
you,
final game
when you hear these
Panther.
Broncos players, I just hear rookies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and that's not knocking them. It's a big stage. They're going to do their job for their team, but which bench is a stronger bench? It's Penrith's bench.
This is where I think the game will be decided.
It's a depth.
Penrith have a stronger bench. They've got more depth. So on the back end of the game, when these players come on, they're going to be more damaging.
I
and
do
tip the
think
game in their scale.
I do think Cogger gets the nod because of
Luai's
injury. So he'll be 14, and if a half goes down or someone in the spine goes down, Cogger will slot in. That's what they did last week. I think they'll carry that into their grand final, and it worked for them last week. So I think that's the way they're going to go. And Penrith gets their bench spot. So out of the 17 on 17, again, on paper, you have to go with the Penrith Panthers.
But it's much closer than you would have thought.
It's closer than you think, yeah,
on paper, Brisbane still have a very, very strong team who are capable of winning this game, and the matchup shows that. 7-6.
For me, it's just great to see 2 of the best teams in the grand final because it's a country mile between 1 and 2 and the rest of the field.
Yeah, it's very true. Well, the prelim finals showed that.
Exactly.
So if there was an upset, last week, like if Warriors had beaten the Broncos last week, then we might have had a one-sided grand final. But if Penrith are off their game a little bit this week and Broncos are on their game,
they beat them.
I think it makes some sense for us to jump into our predictions now.
Okay.
What's your best bet and prediction? Give us your tip and prediction of the game.
I'm going to go with Panthers 13 plus.
Ooh.
Stephen Crichton to score any time. I think that's great value. I just don't think...
he's done it in grand finals before.
I think he's scored in nearly every grand final he's played. Mm-hmm. And for the Broncos, watching them last week, they were just defensively just a bit, how you going?
No,
they were good.
They leak a lot of points. If they're leaking points to the Warriors, you got to think, Penrith are the king of arm wrestles for the last 3 years. If you're going to lose the arm wrestle against... Unless they aim up, I tip the arm wrestle going towards Penrith. They're more disciplined. They have less errors. They're stronger defensively. So... I do think Penrith get the win. You're saying 13 plus. I would just go Penrith head to head. It's a closer game. I think they're $1.50 right now, $1.60. So I'm going Penrith head to head into Nathan Cleary, Clive Churchill medal.
You picked it last year.
I picked it last year. I had Dylan Edwards last year, and we had the margin last year. We also had the handicap last year, but I'm just going to go Penrith head to head. Nathan Cleary to Clive Churchill medal. If Penrith get the job done, it's going to be because of Nathan Cleary, his direction around the park, his kicking game. And he touches the ball the most in that game.
He's touching the ball 80% of the time.
80% of the time. So all they have to do is win. Dylan Edwards got it last year because he was all across the park. That tackle really put him over the line. And he was very consistent across the whole game. But I think Nathan Cleary is their go-to guy. He wins it. And he's my Dalian choice. How do you think it's going?
Look, I think it could possibly be a close game depending on how Brisbane come out in the beginning. Like last year, Parramatta got smacked really early and the game was pretty much over at half-time. I'm just going to go head-to-head Penrith. Liam Martin to score at any time. So
not a bad bet. They love
him
short.
Can I just say Brisbane has gotten the better of Penrith throughout the season?
I think it's 1-1. They've one game each.
So it can go, any given Sunday.
Mate, but Parramatta had the better of Penrith all year last year.
You know what?
Came to the grand final.
Do you know what I actually see? You remember that year of 2012?
Bulldogs Storm.
Bulldogs Storm, where Melbourne just shut down Ben Barber at the back. He could not get rid of the ball quick enough. He was getting buried every occasion. They had someone rushing up on him and shutting him down. I think that Reece Walsh is going to get the same treatment. And they're not going to be able to... Brisbane have no spark if Reece Walsh is shut down at the back. And I'd say Ivan Cleary is running video sessions on Reece Walsh all week, and he's going to be shut out of the game.
I know it's a pretty weird thing to say, but who's more desperate for the win? 3-peat or Broncos, shutting up everyone?
The hunger.
Who's more hungry?
No, look, both teams would be hungry, but Penrith, that based on experience and chasing that legacy, I'm
Because
giving
you know
it
what,
to
as
Penrith.
well, you watched The Last Dance of Michael Jordan. He's had 2 3-peats. On the back end of it, they're exhausted. So are Penrith exhausted?
I mean, bashing
The desire
bashing Melbourne last week by 30
They've had the
points. It
week off
doesn't
too.
seem
They've had the
exhausted.
week off.
I'm
No, I
saying
can't.
the desire to get the 3-peat, does that outweigh the exhaustion of the last 4 grand finals?
I don't know. I think they've still got a lot of fuel left in the tank, and they're going to do it.
Still got a lot left in the
A
tank.
lot left in the. All right, let's move on to our top 5. Each week you can catch our top 5s at Picklebet over on Instagram and at the JBK Show on YouTube. This week's top 5 is top 5 NRL grand finals of all time. This is the NRL era. This is 1998 to present. We're not talking about ARL, 1980s and bashings and, what about Parramatta won 11 in a row? No one cares. We're talking about 1998 onwards.
Parramatta won 3 in a row, B.
Okay, I'm just saying.
St. George won 11 in a row.
It doesn't count. Yeah, Peter Sterling wouldn't cut it in today's game. I'm sorry, Peter. You're too small, can't tackle. But let's go. Top 5 NRL grand finals of all time, starting with number 5.
The 2021 grand final, Panthers beating the Rabbitohs 14-12. Stephen Crichton intercept try, the start of the Penrith dynasty. Yes, it was their second grand final, but this was the one that they won. Adam Reynolds had a game-tying kick towards the end of the game, so the game went down to the wire. You can't really ask for much more. This was Wayne Bennett's last year at the Rabbitohs, Adam Reynolds' last year at the Rabbitohs, so it had the storyline as part of the grand final, but ultimately Penrith won, and it was a great game.
No fairy tale for South that year.
No,
I was asleep for that one.
yeah, there was no fairy tale that year. Number 4, I'm going with the 1999 grand final, St. George Illawarra Dragons versus the Melbourne Storm. Final score, this was 20-18. Very close game. The Dragons blew a 14-point lead. This game had everything. Blacklock runaway try, and it was decided by a first ever penalty try in a grand final as well. So a lot of controversy in this game. 1999, everyone remembers it. Probably go down as one of the best grand finals of all time.
Adding to that, St. George Illawarra was the first year of the joint venture, and it was the Melbourne Storm's second year in the competition. So it had that kind of, rookie kind of feeling to the game as well.
It also started the Dragons are chokers throughout. They didn't win a comp till 2010. So each year from there, every time the Dragons choked in an NRL season, it started from here. Every time they bottled a season, it was, the Dragons are chokers, and it started in 1999 in this grand final.
That takes us to number 3, the 2016 grand final. Sharks beating the Storm 14-12, ending a 50-year premiership drought for the Sharks. Gave us one of the best finals tries of all time in Andrew Fafita scoring off that scrum, and one of the best finals moments in Michael Ennis giving us the Fafita.
Fafita.
And you know what? That was probably one of the bigger upsets as well, because Melbourne Storm in grand finals, they don't usually lose.
It went down to the wire as well, went all the way down to the last play. Everyone, whether you're watching at home or the stadium, got up. Melbourne were offloading.
Throwing everything at the Sharks, but couldn't get it
And
done.
it was scrambled defence. It went right down to the wire. We'll go down as one of the better grand finals of all time. Number 2, I'm going with the 2004 grand final. This is no bias. I know I'm a Bulldogs fan, but the Bulldogs versus the Sydney Roosters, this game had everything. It was 16-13. This had a halftime field goal from Brett Finch. Yes, we're allowed to say his name. This had Willie Mason winning the Clive Churchill medal, El Magic double movement, Matty Utai try in the corner.
Andrew Ryan, try-saving tackle on Crocker.
Try-saving tackle, Mick Crocker knocking the ball on. But this Bulldogs team was a top team, like we said, in last week's top 5. Braith Anasta across the park, Shifty Sherwin. It was a top game, went all the way down to the wire, and I think the better team won in the end.
And we were in attendance for that, and it still is probably one of my favourite childhood memories.
I was 8 years old, 2004 grand final, and Belmore was going off after. Bring it back. Hey, everyone's talking about the year of the fours, 2004.
2024 Bulldogs, baby.
2014. Could the Bulldogs get it done in 2024? But regardless, that grand final was one of the greatest of all time.
What do you say?
No. I'm just going to say that was following that grand final. Canterbury's just gone on a. I mean, I know they made the grand final in
2012, they haven't.
2012 and 14 now, but it's been pretty.
They
down.
haven't won one since then.
They haven't won one since then. So
that still was a great grand final to watch. Only eclipsed by number 1, the greatest grand final of all time. Brisbane Broncos versus the North Queensland Cowboys. The field goal in extra time. Jonathan Thurston obviously missed the game-winning goal kick in the sideline. But the Dally M player, Jonathan Thurston, beating the older brother in the Brisbane Broncos. I think this is probably the most iconic game. Dad, you were in attendance. The crowd that day went mental.
17-16. The Ben Hunt knock on. Everyone hearts break through in that moment.
So many iconic moments in that game, whether it be the try in the corner.
The final try in the corner when Darius Boyd started crying. He's put his head straight in his hand as soon as Kyle Felt put that ball down. But the crowd eruption from that try. Like, you were in attendance.
I've been in attendance at, like, I went to the Socceroos when they qualified for the
John
World Cup.
Aloisi wins the penalty goal, yeah.
But the noise when they scored that try in the corner was deafening. It was crazy. It was just, it was crazy seeing.
Two Queensland teams in a grand final in Sydney going absolutely nuts. It was settled by a field goal. JT's swan song finish, you know what I mean?
And it had one of the greatest calls of all time from Ray Warren.
Yeah, I think that is the epitome of the greatest grand final
It'll be
of all time.
very, very hard to ever top this grand final. I think this just remains at the top of, this list forever.
There you have it. That's our top 5 grand finals of all time. Make sure you subscribe at the JBK Show and tune into our socials to catch our top 5s at Picklebet. But let's look at the AFL grand final. Nick, we're a bit disappointed yesterday with the Brownlow medal, but look, Collingwood are in the grand final. We're going to be there.
We'll get to the Brownlow, but let's preview the AFL grand final. AFL grand final, Collingwood versus Brisbane. Brisbane have got the better of us the last 2 games this year. They've beaten us twice this year, but both those times Collingwood haven't been full strength. Collingwood are now full strength. Nick Dacos came back last week, played an outstanding game. Yes, it was a bit closer against GWS than we would have liked, but he got through the game with a game under his belt. Coming into the grand final, lock him in for Norm Smith. I'm putting him for 30-plus disposals as usual, and I'm taking Collingwood for the win here. Brisbane are a bit high at the moment. They had that 6-goal. They came back from 6 goals down against Carlton. You can't be losing to Carlton by that much and still win, and then come into the grand final. I think the same's going to happen. Collingwood are going to put Brisbane to sleep. We're going to get our first premiership since 2010, and I'm expecting Collingwood to be showing up because Brownlow medal robbery last night.
That was bad. Look, the Brownlow, I don't understand why this is still a thing. Or even the Dally M in the NRL. It's strictly done for betting, right? That's the only reason why people tune in. The whole system, I think, is broken because the people that are giving out the 3 votes, and it's the same in the NRL. It's so inconsistent across the rounds. How could one person get 3 votes for a game where you only have a certain amount of disposals and kicking a high amount of goals and another person not doing far more?
Well, that's the thing. Is the Brownlow rigged? Looking at the scoreboard from last night, Lachie Neale got 3 votes in a 20 disposal game against GWS. Yes, they did pump him in that game, but there were many more Brisbane players that had more touches and had a better impact on the game. Nick Dacos, who was expected to poll 3 votes early in many more games, got 2 votes in some instances, and then in some games, he was getting 30-plus disposals and getting 0 votes. There was one game where Nick Dacos had 41 disposals in a 65-point win and couldn't poll a vote. Now, in a system...
That's rigged to me. Where's the consistency across the 3 votes and the umpires giving out the votes?
In a system where, 1 point matters, and obviously Nick Dacos ended up losing by, I think, 3 or 4 points to Lachie Neale, he gets 2 votes that game. That cuts into the margin. Nick Dacos did not score a point for the last 6 games of the season. Yes, he was out for the last 3, but even in those other games, he had outstanding performances, couldn't poll a vote. How do you have 41 disposals in a game and not get a point? He should have got 3 points. It's just highway robbery. And I understand, okay, I might be a bit biased because I did bet on Nick Dacos to win the Brownlow.
You had money on him?
I did have money on him to win. But
that reason to watch.
But that still removes my bias in seeing how rigged it was. And going forward, you're right. It's just for betting, so why watch it? I'm done.
No. There's not. If there's consistency in the system, like a criteria of what is a 3-point game and what's not, because the fact that he got 0 points for a game like that doesn't make any sense. And look, Neil's got it before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I'd say Neil was robbed last year, and it's kind of like justification he gets it this year in a robbery. But
I don't think this is going to be the last of Nick Dacos being in the top 3 and in contention for the Brownlow, but it's just, I don't think the voting makes sense.
But on the back of this robbery, like I said, Nick Dacos, Norm Smith medalist, flag pies are running wild this weekend. It's flag pies all weekend.
Well, we'll be there at the MCG. It's going to be a cracker on Saturday. But looking over to EPL now, we were up Sunday night. We finally announced that we are Arsenal Gunners. We were there with Nick Stav watching the Arsenal game, Arsenal v Tottenham. It was look, people said it was a shit game. I was there the whole time. I was watching it. I was entertained by the whole thing. All the Arsenal fans were getting stuck into Ange Postecoglou, saying he needs to lose some weight, check his cholesterol, But all the Aussies are getting behind him. It's great. I'm happy to be an Arsenal gunner. We did our tour of all the facilities. We finally picked our team, and we'll be going for them going forward. Now, I will say Rice coming off was a big loss for them. You know,
it changed the game.
As soon as he came on the field, they were struggling defensively.
Possession changed, everything changed.
Exactly right.
But going forward, it's only up from here.
Yeah.
We drew against Tottenham, which is as disappointing as it gets. But as Arsenal fans, we're going to keep moving forward. No bottles this season.
I think we made the right decision. Chelsea are in the shitter right now. They're looking at relegation.
Man United suck.
Man United are terrible. Look, Man City is obviously the top of the line. We could have gone the Arab money route. It was an easy. We probably have ties to some people at Man City. But we're going with the Arsenal Gunners. We're going with the working class. Okay, and we could potentially be catching an Arsenal game in the near future.
That is the plan.
Maybe be on ATV. I don't know. But we are Arsenal
AFTV.
AFTV?
Arsenal Fan TV.
Okay, in other news, the Wallabies suck.
Yes, they do. Losing to Wales 40-6 in a group stage match that was do or die. Eddie Jones did come out and address the poor performance, saying, I apologise to all Australian supporters. Our performance was not up to the standards required.
Look, there were Wallabies crying on the field. It does mean something to them, but at the end of the day, people have to make a decision. Do you hate Eddie Jones for his selection and the way he's been coaching the side, and you are unhappy with Quade Cooper missing out and Hooper missing out? Or do you have to go through this pain of blooding new Wallabies players and getting them ready to build another great Wallabies team? Everyone in Australia, the media is going after the whole Wallabies system. They're going after Eddie Jones. They're saying that he was taking interviews with other nations, Japan, for a coaching role before he even jumped on the plane to coach the Wallabies. I personally think he's sick of the negativity around Australian rugby.
Very toxic environment.
It's just scrutiny the whole time. But I don't know where the Wallabies go from here, because right now they are at the bottom they are rock bottom of the codes in Australia. Of domestic sports, they are at the bottom of the list.
And I think you said before, Stan Sport, they couldn't have picked the worst time to pick up rugby union. Get knocked out in the group stage. Who's going to watch the rest of the World Cup?
Did you expect them to get, or maybe go through the group stage?
Everyone at Stan, whether you ask Sonny Bill Williams, whether you ask all the pundits, rugby pundits, they said they could max make the semi-finals, and they're getting past the group stage.
That loss to Fiji
was massive.
Making it through the group stage was expected, regardless of who he picked. They had not an easy group, but Wales and Fiji are beatable teams. And the fact that they lost in embarrassing fashion, I think that's what rubs it in, makes it even worse.
I personally feel a bit sorry for Eddie Jones, because he wants to affect change. Rugby, and they've made signings to do that going forward. Really what it's come down to is, was it the right decision to drop those experienced players going into a World Cup? A lot of people are coming out and saying no, in hindsight. But that's, everything, looking at retrospectively, of course people are going to come out and say
easier to be a keyboard warrior.
Exactly
I think these changes need to be made. They've been picking the same players and not getting anywhere for a really long time. It was time to blood some new players. Look 4 years ahead. He's been given a Gus Gould 4-year plan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd just give him a shot.
He's come out and said he's not going anywhere.
And hopefully this is a sign now for them to sign more rugby league players. Eddie Jones, get Nathan Cleary on the phone, give him a blank check and say, hey, you want to come play for the World Cup for the Wallabies in 2027? I'm all ears.
But realistically, that's what I think they were lacking. They don't have that Israel for that player. Like, mind you, now, we're not the biggest rugby fans. I'm not the most technical rugby fans. Yes, we did play.
Yeah, but I can watch a game and
I can watch a game and understand. But rugby now has become so power play type games and going for the 3 points. Australia hasn't adapted to that form of rugby yet. And the thing is they don't have those game-breaking players, those Israel Folau's, Quade Cooper to an extent. They didn't have that in this World Cup campaign.
What did they officially come? Maybe we can say 12?
I think when it's all said and done, they're probably, 10 and 11th in the World Cup?
Let's give them a statue outside Adelaide. Adelaide Oval, give them a statue.
You think they deserve a statue for the World Cup performance?
I mean, they had the nation with
I don't know. I think you got to come at least top 5 like the Matildas to get a statue somewhere. But very disappointing for Australian rugby. They are at rock bottom. Who knows where they go from here? Does Eddie Jones stay on? If I'm him, it's just any press conference he's in, all the media are just going at him, his decisions, whether or not he's going to be coaching in Japan or not. Who knows? Sonny Bill had a bit to say about him as well, that if I'm a player, I don't want to be playing under him. And that's his personal opinion. No one's holding any punches, but I mean, I think that, like you said, the key is just sign more rugby league players, see how you go.
Sonny Bill's an all black, mate. Keep your comments to yourself, Sonny Bill.
Let's move on to the NFL. We were gifted some jerseys from the NFL. We're on the Philly. Dad, you're repping the Philadelphia Eagles. Catch us at the Super Bowl, possibly. At the end of the year, we can catch up with Jordan Mailata over there. They're a team to watch out for. We'll be on the Philly bandwagon for the rest of the season, seeing where they're going. But anything that's out there at the NFL at the moment, all you're seeing on SportsCenter, ESPN,
Bleacher
Report, is Taylor Swift in attendance at the Kansas City Chiefs game. Yes, she's going out with,
Kelce.
Kelce. He scored a touchdown for her. All the cameras were on her at the game. He's sitting up in the stands with his mum. She's yelling, "Let's fucking go," when he scores a touchdown when they're up by 34. I think, personally, this is the fakest thing ever. This is Pete Davidson going out with Kim Kardashian. This is just Entertainment Weekly. This deserves to be on ET. If you're an NFL fan and you can see in the comments, no one cares. I don't care that Taylor Swift's at the game.
It's not even that they don't care. They're actually getting annoyed by the fact that not how much popularity, but how much screen time, how much publicity and screen time she's taking up. As an NFL fan, all right, she attended the game. Move on. That's
Pat
enough.
Mahomes has to field questions about Taylor Swift, saying, "Oh, he might meet her. I had to throw a touchdown for him. I felt added pressure because she was in attendance." The Kansas City coach is saying he set him up. At the end of the day, look, he shot his shot. It's great. She was in attendance at the game. I said this was going to happen. I said it off camera. But it just feels so fake and forced for me. Like they're walking out of the locker room and someone's just got a great shot of them walking out together.
And they're leaving in the car.
They're leaving in, it's like a scene out of High School Musical. They're driving a convertible outside the car, conveniently not with their drivers for the first time.
Tell me how the script ends then.
How the script ends is she writes a breakup song about him 6 months from now. and his publicity is elevated as Travis Kelce. And she gets to write another breakup song that does millions. It is annoying to see the Swifties having to try and learn NFL on Twitter. I just want to see Taylor Swift outside of sports. She doesn't belong in sports.
One of the funnier...
It just feels forced to me.
One of the funnier outcomes of it, though, is reading the NFL fans' comments, the hatred. One of the most hateful comments I saw was Travis Kelce scoring sixes on and off the field. Now, I'm not saying Taylor Swift is
a touchdown is a six, and they're referring to Taylor Swift as a six.
I'm not saying she's a six, but that is pretty insulting and very creative way of addressing the situation.
I thought maybe it was a ploy to get her for the halftime show, but they just announced Usher recently as a halftime show. But regardless, the sooner ESPN and SportsCenter stop posting about, because I understand they played 2 days ago, but that's enough. You can't keep relating everything back to NFL, and I don't want to play-by-play on their relationship.
Another funny comment was, please go back to reporting on LeBron.
Yeah, please. That's enough. But, I mean, that's the NFL.
That's how desperate they are.
But I guess we'll see that play out over the season, and their relationship we'll see. But I think the Kansas City Chiefs need to focus on getting to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they did have a rough start over the first two games. So let's see where that ends up. But make sure you stay tuned for our NRL and AFL Grand Final coverage over the week. It'll be all across our socials. We'll be in Melbourne tomorrow covering the AFL and the NRL Grand Final back on Sunday. But that is all for prime time today. Make sure you stay tuned, and back to you in the studio.